Outer Wilds was released a week ago to little fanfare. In fact, I'd never even heard of the game until it popped up on Xbox Game Pass, and I was immediately intrigued. I'm an absolute sucker for space exploration games and just space in general. So I ended up playing Outer Wilds, and to be perfectly honest, it's now one of my favourite space exploration games I've ever played. It's a mixture of the exploration of No Man's Sky and the technical piloting of Elite Dangerous, with a quirky cast of characters thrown in. So let me explain the premise of the game. You're an alien living a happy life on your home planet of Timber Hearth. Your species live mostly in wooden huts, but have progressed enough to have the technology to achieve spaceflight. It makes for an interesting style where your spaceship or module is made up of both metal and wood, and everything inside your module is held down by tape. You're the newest astronaut in the Outer Wilds Ventures program, which sends astronauts to space to explore the solar system. There were other astronauts before you, all of them going to investigate other planets. You can locate them by pointing your signal scope at a planet and listening for their signature instrument. Anyway, your adventure starts with you waking up beside a campfire on Timber Hearth. You can roast some marshmallows, make sure not to burn them, then head up to the observatory to collect the launch codes for your ship. Along the way you talk to the locals around your village before getting the launch codes, but on the way out of the observatory, a statue of an ancient alien known as the Noami opens its eyes and shines a light in your face. You see a vision of your past. Then it's over. It's weird. You then proceed to enter your ship, then once you're comfortable with the ship controls, you can take off into space, and from there you can go anywhere to any planet. But there's a catch. Once you've been playing for 20 minutes, if you haven't died by then yet, space is an incredibly hazardous place. The sun goes supernova, and there's no escaping it. It kills you and everyone in the universe. But that's not the end. You suddenly wake back up on Timber Hearth in front of the fire. If you try and talk to anyone about how you just died, they have no idea what you're on about, and that's when you realise that you're in a time loop, Groundhog Day style. So every 20 minutes the sun goes supernova, there's no avoiding it at all. The only thing you can do is hope you can find an answer for why this is happening, and that answer had to be out there in distant planets. In Outer Wilds, every planet is different, and there is more to them than meets the eye. The first planet I ever landed on was Brittle Hollow, a planet with a black hole at its core. Because of this, the surface is slowly being pulled into the black hole, making exploring dangerous. I'm not going into detail about these planets, you're better off exploring them for yourself. The next planet I landed on was Giant's Deep. At first glance it seems that the planet is covered in green grass, but as I tried to land, I went straight through the grass. Giant's Deep is actually covered in green clouds, and underneath the planet is one huge ocean that is constantly being ravaged by an endless storm. There are islands on the planet for you to explore, but watch out. When the tornadoes get close, they will pick up the island and launch it into space, so keep your ship close. You can also try and get to the core of Giant's Deep, but there is a strong current in your way that not even a ship can fly through. But maybe if you were going fast enough you could break through the surface? It's just a theory. The next planet, or planets, is the Twins. They are two smaller planets so close together they're in the same orbit as each other around the sun. One of the planets is covered in sand, and over time will pour the sand onto the other, slowly covering up the planet and all the structures and caverns in it to make it impossible to explore. So timing is the key. As soon as you die and respawn, you have to immediately fly back to explore the planet further. That's what makes exploring the planet so interesting. You begin to conjure up a map in your head of the layout of the planet, giving you shortcuts and easier ways to explore them. The final explorable planet is Dark Bramble. This planet is by far my favourite because it's the creepiest and scares the crap out of me. Dark Bramble is basically one big seed. Inside its core is a white mist that is so thick that you can't see a couple of meters in front of you. The only thing you can see are a few white lights and one red light, glowing in the mist. Now, there are no real enemies in Outer Wilds. Usually there are hazards you have to avoid, but not something that will outright try to kill you. Dark Bramble is an exception to that. The first time I flew into the core, I saw the white light. Thinking that was a safe place to land, I flew straight towards it at cruising speed. What I didn't expect was a huge space fish attached to the light that immediately screamed and swam towards me. Before I could even frantically put my ship into backwards thrust, its jaws had closed around me, and I was dead. It's these sort of curveballs that the game suddenly throws at you. Exploring Dark Bramble is terrifying knowing that the light could lead you to safety or death. Another interesting thing about all these planets is the Noami technology and structures littered throughout them. The Noami appear to be extinct or something else has happened to them, and they have left messages throughout the system that may hold the key to ending the loops and stopping the sun from going supernova. I think the technology that Noami left when they disappeared is the most interesting part of the game. You can piece together a story of what happened to them and how they ended up in your solar system in the first place. There are a few endings you can get to the Outer Wilds. I actually ended up breaking the universe in my playthrough, which is considered the bad ending, for obvious reasons. But how about flying? What's it like? Well, flying your module in the Outer Wilds is a tiny bit like flying your ship in Elite Dangerous. Let me explain what that means. The universe of Elite Dangerous is built to be exactly like ours, with planets orbiting stars and even how ships work in zero-G. It's not easy to accelerate and decelerate when out in space. In fact, if you're travelling too fast, you'll completely overshoot your intended landing spot. And even landing the spaceship is hard. It comes down to small bursts of propulsion and adjustments from your ship to accurately land. But Outer Wilds has taken the idea and made it a little bit easier. You don't have to worry about frame shift drives or fuel or landing gear in Outer Wilds. You just have to make sure you can adjust your speed well enough to match up to a planet's orbit. Your first few attempts will probably have you crash landing or propelling yourself into the sun. Never use the autopilot, by the way, it's bad. But that's no matter, you can just try again. At some point you'll be flying the module like a pro, ducking and weaving out of caves and ravines, landing on space stations and asteroids that would have been impossible a few hours ago. So, what are my final opinions about Outer Wilds? Well, to say the least, I'm absolutely in love with this game, and I'm shocked I had never heard anything about it before its release. It really captures the feeling of space exploration, of heading into the unknown and seeing what you can discover. It doesn't try and be a huge universe-spanning space sim like Elite Dangerous or No Man's Sky. It takes the best pieces of those games and condenses it down to one solar system. But in that one system, there is a huge story waiting to be uncovered. Every planet is unique in its own way, and each one adds to the overall narrative. So would I recommend Outer Wilds? Yes, of course. I tried to see as much as I possibly could while playing, even going as far as trying to 100% it, which is something I don't do very often at all, and I only try and do for games I really enjoy playing and spending time in. So yes, go play Outer Wilds, I can't stress that enough. I give it 9 terrifying space fish out of 10.